welcome to Why the Fuck Not. I'm Ed.
I'm Dwight.
And I'm Aaron.
Yeah, it's been a pretty long week or 2 weeks for us. We haven't been able to get into the studio for the past couple days to do
I
this.
don't know why we all just started smiling as soon as you
Like,
said
oh
record.
shit, well I think it's just, it just feels so fucking nice that we're finally doing it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, totally,
It's
yeah.
about fucking time.
It's been a couple weeks.
Yeah, it took a little while. I definitely felt the effect of not doing this for a week. Like, I didn't feel as, like, released. Like, yeah, like, you know, I kind of felt like things were bottling up and not being able to talk about shit or whatever it is maybe, so.
I had so much shit bottling up that I had to start making YouTube videos just ranting
I saw
about
them.
shit.
Well, your YouTube videos, they were good, though. Like, they were alright. Well, they were rants, but I still enjoyed them.
Yeah, it was just me unrehearsed, just talking about shit.
Yeah, there was a lot of fucking things that happened in the cyber news. So we'll go with
yes.
that, but, well, we're going to start off the way that we always do. Dwight, how was your week? Or how was your week and a half, I guess?
It's been about a week and a half. Yeah, no, it's been good for the most part. Yeah, no, I can't even think of. I mean, it feels weird not doing the podcast. It really kind of threw me off, actually. Like, I'm just used to, like what you said, just kind of venting and, you know, speaking your mind and talking, and that just doesn't happen unless I have this scheduled appointment. So,
I think it's finally hit
I
habit,
missed
right?
it. Huh?
I think it's finally hit habit now at this point. Like, this is just, it's turned into that 30-day habit thing.
Yeah, it's to the point where, like, it's like missing a week of, like, counseling, where you're just like, oh shit, what do I do?
Seriously, it throws
Great,
it off.
now I gotta go fucking mass murder some people. Son of a bitch.
Damn it.
All because I didn't get to sit down and do my fucking podcast.
Yeah.
Seriously. But it's been good, I think, for the most part. We took a cool course at work.
Oh, that was really interesting.
That was tons of fun.
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs, if no one's heard of it, they can check it out.
Psychological test.
Psychological
Trying to make sure you
test,
guys
kind
aren't
of
crazy.
16 different personality types and kind of how you talk with each
Like
one of
where
them.
you fit in and like how it works with people.
Yeah.
It turns out me and you were exact fucking matches, which is a little weird. It explains a little bit.
Yeah. What was that? What was the Kara Lee? Was that her name?
Yeah, Kara Lee.
She was awesome too. The instructor.
I started
This
off
is what.
very.
Well, this is what happened. We walked into this. We walked into this seminar. I'm going to call it, and this lady looked like she was probably like she was in her mid-70s for sure, right? She ended up actually. She told me she was over 80.
Oh wow.
But like she looked like in her, I'd say like 70, close to 70, late 60s. She looked good for her age. Now that I know that she was in her 80s, but so you walk into her, and then there was like a projection. What are those things
Old
called
school
again?
fucking projector.
An old school projector.
Yeah, the
Oh,
light
like
projectors.
like one of those ones where
Like
you can draw.
where you have a clear piece of fucking
Oh
paper
my
and
god!
shit. Yeah, like
I don't even think people know what that is anymore.
I
don't
saw
thi-
that shit. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. You can hear the fan, which is like.
Yeah, like wow.
Like shit, that's awesome. You don't
I
see
was
those
probably
You
the
never
last
see that
generation to
anymore.
use those.
Totally.
I don't think they use those
I don't
anymore.
think
They don't know. It's all PowerPoint now.
Yeah, it's all
Like,
Yeah.
LCD projection.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
easy. I can literally buy a better projector than that thing could do for less than $50.
So you walk into a room with this like 80-year-old lady. She got one of those
Her
projectors.
80-year-old projector.
Her 80-year-old projector, and then she made us fill out a bubble sheet beforehand,
Answering a bunch of weird
answering a
questions.
bunch of personality questions, like
And
random
then
how would
questions.
you
drew it up
react?
on the
So
screen.
like I came in and I was just like, this is gonna be
Interesting.
prehistoric. Like this is gonna be old school way of thinking, and she was amazing.
Really?
And she like it was like right away she captivated like her audience.
I think
like,
so.
I
Yeah.
was
She commanded that room right away.
She was an awesome presenter, and it was an amazing course, and I thought she was so good at her job. Like you could tell she's been like public speaking for years, and she was just
Yeah, this is something.
was awesome.
Well, she said she was PR for years at like whatever company she was at. Like, so she's used to talking to people at this point. And, like,
what a good conversationalist.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
actually like.
Well, let's
I'll
have her
say-
on.
Yeah.
She
I asked her a question. We
I
should.
would.
I've asked her a couple questions. Well, like, kind of like when we were doing those like individual things where we all kind of had to sit down and talk. And I was like, so what brought you into doing this? Like, why this? Like,
Right.
what brought you at this age
Why
sitting
you not
in front of a
retired?
bunch of schmucks like us that work at a fucking restaurant?
Yeah.
Helping us out. Like, what was the fucking transition between here and there? And she's like, well, I was PR. I was basically human resources. So she was HR at some company forever, and she found this what is it again?
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs. She found this program, and she was like, it was just in her trying to understand people and being able to talk to people more in her field, and she just fucking went with it and kept going.
You know what my favorite thing about her was like when you'd ask her a question like about like what we were talking about when we were talking about personality types and whatever, you'd ask her a question about her, she wouldn't like give you a straight answer.
She'd make you answer.
She would make you answer it. Like she would like it was a constant mind game that like made you like learn better because like
I
don't know what it, like it
when
was.
it first happened, I'm like, you're not answering anything.
Like everyone wanted a direct answer, right? It's like, okay, how do we apply this to whatever? And she'd be like, well, what do you think that? You know what I mean?
By the end, you got it. Like,
and by the end, you got it, and
yeah.
and it was like you understood it more because you spoke and you got to think on your own terms about the answer more. You know what I mean? Like you weren't. I don't know. I thought she was awesome. So it was.
All I know is since I took that class, I have heard the word introverted so many more times past the class. Like outside of work, people using that word. I'm like, wow, I never was this prevalent before I did this class, or is it just a coincidence that right after the class, this is all I'm hearing about is introverted, extroverted.
Yeah.
And I've literally, I think I counted 5 or 6 times. I've heard it from separate people. And not directed towards me. It was like something on Facebook somebody posted, and then like, yeah, I've seen it for 5 times since then.
You know what the cool thing about the course, I think, like the biggest takeaway for me was like at least you got it. It made you look at everyone in like a way where everyone does things and everyone's has their own personality, and there's no right and wrong way to. Like everyone has their own characteristics and traits that they carry, and it made me learn to appreciate them.
Yeah,
as opposed to just think they're different and they piss me off because they're not like me or whatever. It made you very open-minded about other people's personalities
and their faults. That's the thing that I like. It's like those faults are there for a reason, but those faults don't necessarily have.
It's
to be
a bad
faults.
thing. Like people interpret things differently, and they express themselves differently, and they learn differently, and it just taught you to like appreciate everyone for who they were, and it was very. It gave me perspective anyway.
It would have been too much to have everybody there like from work, but the people that we had, like I could see the merit in this.
It was cool.
It was mostly management, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this was management.
Yeah.
It was, but that's cool because we all have to kind of like intertwine with each other and work with each other, and it's a good idea for us to understand each other a little bit. So.
Yeah, it was neat. It was cool.
I think that's absolutely good. So.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, no, it was really good. How about yourself, Aaron? You know, that was Dwight's week. How about your week?
I've been researching, I guess we can say. There's been a lot of stuff going down in the news that I've been following, and just, I don't know, the usual crazy, just pay attention to whatever else so I don't have to pay attention to my own shit. I don't know, not a bad week. Busy at work.
Distracting yourself, are you?
Yeah, we've been watching your videos. At least I have, anyway. It's you can see this pent-up aggression, just like, I need to fucking yell at somebody. God damn it. I could feel it in your videos. It was good, though. It was nice. I actually really enjoyed the video that you did.
I saw you were playing that, what's that racing game called?
It's not really a racing game. Rocket League?
Rocket League. Oh, yeah, that's
so
soccer
like
versus...
Soccer cars.
I have it on PlayStation. We can play that anytime you want. Like,
it's a pretty fun game.
If you're not so rushed one day, we'll sit down and we'll play it.
Random thing, this is like super nerdy that I got into the last week. I'm taking this from you. But like, have you ever heard of like speed running and I'm sure you guys
fuck yeah.
Oh, okay.
Have you been watching at HD or SGGQ?
That's exactly what I've been watching.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing.
Is that a YouTube?
And it's Summer Games Done Quick.
Oh, okay. I've been watching a bunch of YouTube videos about famous speedrunners.
So shout out to those guys. Okay, here's Summer Games Done, no, they did.
There's 2 of them. There's
awesome
Summer
Games Done Quick, and
then there's Summer.
So there's one during the summer, one during the winter.
Huge charitable event.
The one during the winter broke $3.5 million in a week. That they did to
think they've done over $10 million in 4 years.
Well over that.
Right?
Well over that, yeah.
It's insane.
Their first year they broke the million. The second year they broke 1.5. The third year was like they're constantly getting a little bit higher and higher.
Just to clarify what speed running is, it's just like
you smoke as much meth as you can and you just go for a jog.
Like cheetah. It's great. We just fucking people
for charity.
It's it's just like streamers who play video games, and literally the objective of the game is just to complete it as fast as you possibly can. Like
they break the game to do it too. Like,
some of them,
break the game. They look for like
there's tool assisted runs where they try and exploit certain things.
Most of these are non-tool assisted. All these are done with glitches.
So a lot of them you can't glitch, right? Like there's some runs that are like 20 hours long, and
but
you're
those glitches they have to do are so hard. Like
there's ones frame perfect.
Yeah, you have to get the thing in the exact right pixel, or else it's not going to work.
To break down frames for the people that don't quite understand, have you ever heard like 60 frames per second for games and stuff?
PC
it's
Master
a pretty
Race.
common thing, or 90 FPS. Basically, within 1 second, there is 60 frames to make the animation on it. They have one frame in that 60 frames to make whatever move they have to do to create this glitch.
And it has to write whatever item they're using or whatever has to land in the pixel perfect spot.
Yeah, like the Zelda one is pretty interesting.
Oh,
right? There's a lot of those.
The Super Mario ones,
man. Mario, Zelda. You know what's a really big one lately is Borderlands. Borderlands.
Really?
You know what I've been watching is the Diablo 2 ones because I was obsessed with Diablo 2. And there's this one guy, I think his name is like Llama or something, shout out to him. But like the dude like does Diablo 2 runs with like all the characters, and it's all 3 difficulties, and it takes like 8 hours to complete, like a world record or whatever. Like it's
so
like
he just does
character.
them all.
So he'll do all 3 difficulties, and it's like nonstop.
That's
you know what
crazy.
I mean? Like, and it's just like it's insane to watch.
I've been watching like Super Mario Sunshine speedruns.
Those are really cool too.
I don't know why. I never played that game.
Because like the things that you could do with that, like because you can spray water on the ground, which helps you slick and slide faster.
It has
so
really cool mechanics.
Would, like, slick, slide, jump, spray, slick, slide, jump, spray, and it'd be like this constant thing over and over and over and over again. Whoa. To do like these crazy perfect maneuvers everywhere in the game is fucking insane.
It's interesting. These guys have the talent of their own, and I love how they're like it's a huge charitable thing, and I think it's tons of fun to watch. And I never understood people who watched people playing video games before. Like I never got it. Like it was just weird to me when I'd see like someone in the back or something watching someone play a video game, and you're like, why don't you just play that video game? And I never understood it until last week. It was the first time I appreciated it.
I'm going to shout out a couple things that people should check out. From the same thing, it's from SGDQ or AGDQ. Check out a Super Metroid, one of the more recent ones, Super Metroid Race. So it's 4 people doing the exact same thing, trying to beat each other. And they have 4 screens showing all of them. Cool. And it's so weird because one will be like less than 2 seconds behind this person, so you'll be like, whoop out, whoop out. It's like you can see them go. And there'll be one person that fucks up, and they're like, fuck, so they're behind a whole bunch. It's really interesting to watch that guy that's behind do all these really crazy, like, pixel perfect fucking maneuvers to catch up. And it works. I watched one that got fucked up within the first 20 minutes of a Super Metroid run. He ended up winning it. And he like was back about a minute.
Well, some of the runs are so precise that like it's exactly that. Like half a second breaks the world record. Like it has to be a flawless like 20-minute run or whatever. And then there's other ones where it's like Skyrim and stuff where it's like literally like you have 18 hours of speed run, which is insane.
Well,
like,
I think
people do it in one sitting.
Right now, the highest record glitch speedrun. So there's a difference between speedrun, glitch, speedrun.
I probably was off of these.
Yeah, so the glitch one means that they can do whatever they want. It's any percent is what they call it. You can do whatever you want to get through it. I think the record for Skyrim is 17 minutes right now.
That's insane.
Yeah, somebody beat it in 17 minutes. There's a clipping glitch. I know we're fucking going into nerdy shit here. Because in Skyrim you can pick anything up, right? Like you just hold it. So if you take a bowl and hold it in front of you and flip it so that the circular part's facing away from you and walk into a wall, the fucking wall gets confused and thinks that you're on the other side of that fucking bowl and shoots you through the wall.
Interesting.
And then you can go from underneath right directly to the end boss. It takes like 17 minutes.
My favorite thing in Skyrim was just like picking up one of those baskets and putting it over someone's head, and then you can just steal everything because they don't see you.
Yeah. If we're going to go for favorites for Skyrim, my favorite thing is there's a guy that put on a mod that allowed him to carry as much as he wanted. So he went and got every single spoon, not fork, knife, and spoon, just spoon. In the game, went to a merchant and then just released them all. It was like, poof, like this fucking pile of spoons everywhere.
There's actually a benchmark people use. A benchmark is like you do a certain thing that's the same every time in a video game to see how good your system is. There's one where in Skyrim where they go to the top of a mountain and they spawn like 1 million cheese barrel things. And they just all come, and it'll like your computer will go down to like 1 frame per second. It'll take like 30 seconds to load the sequence.
That's pretty fucking cool, though.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's cool. It's
one more speedrun that you should check out is the very first Mario.
I just watched that last night at like 2 in the morning, and I was like, "What is going on here, man? Like, I don't understand."
I think
that
makes me feel like an idiot because it took me for sure like. Whatever, 6 hours the first time I played the game, like going through all the worlds.
To get through all of them,
And this dude does it in like 3 minutes and 5 seconds.
It was seven, wasn't it? It might have been 5 minutes.
Okay, it wasn't long.
Regardless,
it wasn't 6 hours.
The reason why you should check that one out is because they're at the point right now where literally milliseconds is what's making the world record. If you can beat it by a millisecond,
you can't stop running. Like you constantly have to be jumping.
People don't play on the virtual consoles because the virtual consoles run at 59.899 FPS, whereas the actual NES console runs at 60.099. So over the course of a 20-minute speed run, that'll save you a minute or a couple seconds.
A couple seconds, but that couple seconds gets you into the world record contendership, right? And like there's
it's
videos.
a huge community behind it. Eh?
Oh, huge!
That Games Done Quick started out as this other something done. Yeah, it was that was the beginning of speedrunning, pretty much.
Really cool.
And it's always kind of been around, you know. Like I remember my first time coming across speedrunning. I was pretty young. I might have been like 17. So I was like, "You need to see this guy beat Mario 1."
Well,
so
it was all VHS tapes being handed around.
Exactly.
Right?
And I watched it, and he beat it, and I remember the time was 11 minutes and 27 seconds. I know that because I watched it like 20 times.
I know that because it's my pin.
But watching that was really cool. But from when I was like 19 till now, I've watched it go from 11:27 to like less than 5 minutes. Somebody figured out another glitch to help, and they're still finding glitches on 30-year-old games.
And have you seen? I'm going to keep talking about this. Have you seen the blindfolded runs?
Those are crazy.
Like
Ocarina of Time blindfolded is fucking insane.
That's insane.
They beat the game blindfolded from the very beginning to the very end. It takes
in front of an
longer.
audience.
Yeah. It takes a little longer, but these guys, you know that they have literally done this every day for the past...
Yeah. Like 17 minutes of like nonstop like algorithms.
Yeah,
like,
it's insane. Like when you fuck up, it's not just fucking up. It's okay. I fucked up. How do I get myself back to where I know where?
No,
I am?
you got to restart.
Yeah,
they don't though. They figure out how to get back into a corner. They're like, okay, this must be where I'm at. And
they hear a sword clashing against the corner, and
The craziest speedrun I ever saw was.
Yeah.
Sorry, this will be the last one.
Sorry, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So this is interesting.
The craziest speedrun I saw. This guy, I think it was Mega Man. He beat Mega Man 1, 2, 3. Yeah, with one controller, playing all of them at once.
At the same time?
Yeah, and he finished them all within like 2 seconds of each other.
That's fucking insane. I haven't seen that one. That one I have to
That's
take a
crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty good. There's like a whole bunch of cool things though. Like there's one where like 2 players, 1 controller. That's another really cool one. Especially with Dark Souls, something really heavy and hard to beat. Like having those people having to like, I'm gonna swing. Like that person has to know what this person's gonna do at every fucking moment.
It's precise timing.
Super cool. I thought it was super interesting. So, but yeah, I've been watching those for fucking ever. I've always kind of been interested in those things.
I just got into watching them just because of like Reddit. I'll see them pop up on Reddit.
Oh, they're fucking insane. Like,
yeah.
I can't believe that I think last year was 2.4 million that they raised.
Really?
Yeah, some like crazy amount. So like, I mean, good to them. If you ever get a chance, check it out. They stream right after Christmas, and they should be streaming just a week before August, I think, like before August or something like that. It's something like that. I can't remember exactly when it is, but it's so fucking interesting. I watch it live every year. Like I always like as the videos come up, I watch them and like.
I might have to tune into this.
I would probably do it this year too. Yeah. Yeah, it's a totally new thing for me. It's been like a 1 week thing that I'm just like, what?
I haven't watched it for a couple of weeks.
Ridiculous. Like, you have months of backlog videos that you have to watch too. So.
Well, you always got to start with like the top 10s. You know what I mean? Like top 10 speed runs.
Yeah.
Top 10 world records.
There's this guy
like world records.
There's this guy I've been watching. He breaks down like the most famous speed runs in a certain game and like breaks down all the glitches they use. That one's pretty cool. I should probably find his name and shut him out.
Yeah. Well, like I mean, to be perfectly honest, like watching that stuff is so intricate. Like. To know what's going on is really fucking difficult. Like these people have spent their life on these fucking things.
Well, it's like memorizing music almost.
Yeah.
Like,
it's even more. I think it's even more complicated than that. At least music is fucking timing and like frets and stuff. Like I could figure that out, but to like be pixel perfect, like the hand-eye coordination involved with that, way more than a bass.
Did you ever think like I thought I was like it really was like I want to try speedrunning Diablo 2. I remember watching this. I want to try doing this.
It's gonna be hard
because I spent like a stupid amount of time playing that game. Like,
I
knew exactly what he's talking about the whole time.
One of our first conversations was like, "Man, have you ever played Diablo 2?" And I'm like,
"Stole 3 years."
The only game I think I could speedrun is like
Pokemon.
No, man, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games.
Oh yeah, I used to be. Really
I could kick all your asses in that.
The very first one, I was really good. I can basically get through like each level with one run. I'd have every single tape or whatever.
I think every kid played that game.
Oh yeah, I played that shit.
I think people like the younger generation don't understand how crazy that game was when it came out the first one. Like it was
because when you go from like when you went from like Super Nintendo and then you went to something like
one of those fucking games,
exactly
isometric, you know,
and then you jump to like Tony Hawk's. It was just
the 3D style.
It was unreal.
Did you guys ever play Skate?
Oh yeah, Skate's way better.
Yeah.
But
that was the next step.
That was the next step in evolution, right? Skate 1 and Skate 2
Tony
was
Hawk's
fantastic.
just could have a trick that lasted for 7 minutes, you know?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Oh.
manual and
I would
like,
trick the
really
entire
good
level.
points.
Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't land
exactly.
until the very last second, then I'd land it down and then get my points for
Yeah.
it.
I know what I'm doing when I'm going home. I'm downloading all of those games
All
on
the
my
emulators.
PC. I do that. I do that like every couple years.
And I
Actually,
think all of them hold up really well. The only ones I don't think that do is when they started putting a storyline in it, like Thug and Thug 2.
it's mostly because of the
and, like,
soundtrack
American
that they
Wasteland.
hold up.
I think so too.
The
Well,
you
soundtracks
don't
are
like the
so
soundtrack?
no,
They're
the
so
soundtracks
good.
are so
Yeah,
good.
they're awesome.
Oh yeah, that
It's
made
good
me
enough
fall
that
in
you
love
just
with-
want to like. That's what like Grand Theft Auto do is like. It's good enough that you just want to like cruise around. Like you
I
can just
just-
cruise around in the game with not even doing the objectives.
Me and my buddy used to
Do
fucking
cool tricks.
back when I was
Find
younger.
stuff.
We used to just smoke joints and fucking drive around in San Andreas.
You know when you're
Oh,
bored
yeah, I
when
still
you like
do
start
that.
falling, you start like actually stopping at red lights. You know?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, we
driving
did
in
that
the
too.
lane. You're like, what am I
Yeah.
doing right now?
I've done that.
I can
with-
murder
Yeah.
everyone.
We used to be like, oh, well, we'll go find a parking spot and we'll smoke a joint. So we'd go and drive around, and like, this is the perfect place to smoke a joint. And we just fucking park there and smoke a joint. Man, we had
The best part of that
Obey
game
all
was
the
not the
laws.
This is all we
storyline.
did.
Paying the hookers.
Paying the hookers, yeah.
It was great.
See how many stars you can get, how many cop stars you can get, you know,
Fucking
how long you can
so much
last with
fun.
5 stars.
Oh.
Those games really
Great.
took a lot out of my life. Like
Oh.
I just chunked probably a year or so out of my life. I
They were
fucking
too
love
good,
that
and they're
stuff.
so. It's cool because they still find like Easter eggs and they still find things.
Oh,
in,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto because it's such a big.
Well, it's huge.
Well,
Yeah.
right now the newer one, part 5. It's this is just spitting out.
We're going on a
stuff.
huge.
Yeah, I mean,
Today's episode,
we
video
decided to kind of
games.
be a little bit floaty on today's episode anyway, so it's not so directed. But
I could talk about this all day.
Yeah,
really good.
definitely.
But the new Grand Theft Auto 5 has sold, I think I talked to you about this before. They just broke a record at 85 million copies.
They're still selling copies.
Yeah, they're not done. Yeah,
Wow.
it's not done. It's because of the support that they give on the online, because they give free shit to online constantly.
I never played the online for Grand
It's
Theft Auto.
insane. It's
Is
so
it?
much better because, like, I mean, most people that jump into online don't like it because they'll just get killed right away. Well, there's a fucking setting on here. You can just switch it on, and then nobody can kill you. Like, you can only die the way that you would in the game. Nobody can, like, some random player
It's
can't come and kill
interesting
you.
how it's a lot more fun to basically play out yourself in a video game than it is to do
Yeah.
In real life.
in real life.
It's because everything's, like, at your fingertips, right? It's super
guess so.
easy, super quick. It's easy
I
to get
guess
into
so,
that
right?
type of stuff, so. Yeah. So, well, that sounds like you've been having a good week there.
Oh, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, good week. Okay, yeah.
My week is same sort of deal. You know, like we've had pretty close to the same week. I think for the most part, we had the class, which was super interesting. Like I guess I had mentioned before, walked in very skeptical, walked out almost mind blowing. Like the way that I learned a lot about myself, which was super interesting. Other than that, I've been watching a lot of punk documentaries actually. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Music?
Yeah.
The whole ride here, we were talking about the punk music and how it started.
Honestly, out of all music genres and the way that like the history and stuff happens, punk is by far to me the most interesting. Like the things that have happened. Like I'll briefly get into because I want to make this a full topic one day. But there's like when punk started, it kind of started in 4 places, right? Like it started in New York, it started in Toronto, it started in LA, and it started in London, and they weren't corresponding with each other. You know, like it
I
wasn't-
remember you kind of talking about this before.
yeah, it just kind of like all started randomly between them. And, like some of them, you know, heard this. Like the New York Dolls moved over to like their music hit London, so that kind of like gave London a reason to start getting a little bit heavier with their music. But the real thing, like, or the way that a lot of people talk about London's punk scene, started because of a garbage strike. Like the people that pick up the garbage, or the government picking up the garbage, that was on strike. So the fucking city got really dirty, really stinky, really shitty, and all these kids couldn't fucking go out. It would just stink everywhere they went. They weren't happy with that, so they just go to people's basements and play music, and it would get aggressive because they were fucking angry that they couldn't do anything.
That's
It's
interesting.
between that and listening to the music that they listen to, like coming from New York, because New York Dolls is kind of like pre-punk a little bit. They kind of sound a little bit like the Rolling Stones, except they dress up like girls, which is kind of the reason why glam rock came out. Was like the New York Dolls is
Okay,
probably
so-
one of the most influential bands that I think I can ever talk about.
Since we're talking about music, I gotta ask this question. This guy that we work with, shout out to Zach.
Oh yeah,
Like the music that guy listens to,
he listens
I
to a
think
lot of
it's
stuff.
cool and interesting. What's it called?
Some of it.
It's a lot of it.
Some of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of it. He listens
would
to very
just- I
like
would
punk
not-
folk music.
Punk
It's kind
folk? That's what it's
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's not all punk. It's not all folk, but it's kind of like this weird.
Because it's
hybrid.
interesting.
It's good,
But
yeah.
there's no way I could ever find that on like. I would not even know what to search. Like I hear some of the songs, I'm like, where are these people? I didn't even know these people. I didn't even know this music existed.
I think I'm safe here because I don't think he listens to this.
He does, actually.
Oh shit! Never mind. I love your music, Zach. It's wonderful. I have
Seriously,
nothing
too
bad
much
to
on
say
Thursday
about
night.
it.
Here's the thing about Zach, and I think a lot of musicians, people that are musicians,
Awesome musician,
specifically,
man, and yeah, plays the banjos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's good at
Good
playing
musician, for
instruments.
But
Yeah.
these musicians tend to not just listen to music, they explore music, and that's where the change
Definitely.
is.
Right.
So a lot of the bands that he's listened to isn't that he like searched out what can I find in punk folk. He listened to this punk band that was fucking amazing and found out that the lead singer is broken off and is doing a solo project. So he listens to that, and that's that weird like sounding thing. And then that found out that guy also went on to work on this band, so he checks that band out. And I do the same thing. Like I find that's how
you really appreciate music, right?
Yeah, I'm an explorer of music. I always have been. I don't like just kind of sitting down on this is my favorite band. You know, like I do have a favorite band, but
what is your favorite band?
It's going to sound stupid, but Foo Fighters. And the reason isn't because of necessarily their music. Dave Grohl as a person is probably the most well-rounded fucking musician out there. He's one of the bands that can pick up anything and play anything, and it's a fucking Foo Fighters song. Name one other band that can pick up and play any style of music, and it'd be their music. It can't be. Like, Green Day can't pick up something and just be like, I'm going to play fucking rap music or something with like almost like a techno beat to it.
Well, it's one of those bands where as soon as you hear them, you're like, oh, that's Foo Fighters. Like, I can do that with Metallica. And I can hear any chord from Metallica and be like, yeah, that's Metallica.
Yeah, totally.
You just hear that thing going on all the time.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, everybody's got their kind of thing. It's like, this is this, this is this, this is this, and you can hear it. But I think Foo Fighters has transcended that and became that band that can play anything, anytime, anywhere, doesn't matter what it is, and it's okay. And if you go about his side projects, like, it's endless. Like, he's got Probot, he's got fucking Queens of the Stone Age, he did them Crooked Vultures, Nirvana, of course.
Yeah, he was in
part of
Nirvana.
Scream before that.
That's insane.
Oh yeah, I'm not even done. I could probably go on another 5 or 6 more bands. He fucking Tenacious D. He's the drummer for Tenacious D.
Really?
Yeah. If you watch the Pick of Destiny, he's the devil in Pick of Destiny, the movie.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah.
He's done a lot of shit, and most people don't talk about that time. He drummed for fucking Prodigy.
Yeah, he can play like any instrument, right?
He drummed for Prodigy on.
You gotta be a good drummer to drum for Prodigy.
Oh yeah, well I mean they use electronic drums all the time, right? Their stuff is all fucking drum machine, and Dave Grohl came on and was able to do that shit, no problem. Not that it isn't possible, but
yeah.
Dave Grohl also, if you've ever heard of the band Ghost, drums for Ghost on a couple tracks here and there. But that's the kind of cool thing about him. That's why he's my favorite musician. But if I had to go like music wise, like punk has been my thing for fucking ever. Like I love everything. I love hip hop. I love. I've been getting really into soul music. I think I mentioned that on a past podcast.
Soul music.
But I mean, watching
soul.
these documentaries, bringing it back to what I was saying about my week, I've been watching these documentaries, like probably 3 or 4 of them, and it's gone through the evolution of punk. Essentially, without doing the early stuff, because I don't have a documentary on it. There is American Hardcore is one that you can watch, but I've been watching one called Fat Wreck, and that's all about Fat Records and NoFX, which NoFX really cool because they're probably the most popular indie band in the world. They've sold over 8 million CDs on their own label, and that's no other real independent label has ever done that. They're like this is over the course of 15 CDs, right? It's not like one CD to this crazy amount, but they are pretty close to one of the most important /
You call them indie?
Indie. Oh, they're indie because they're self-produced. They're self-produced. They said.
Is that what indie means?
Yeah,
independent.
Not indie music. Indie as indie music as not a genre.
It means they have an independent.
Okay.
Independent
they
record
own their
label.
own record label. They put out their own records. They don't have to go through anybody. If they want to do a record, they just fucking do it.
Do you know who Tech Nine is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's independent.
Yeah.
He has his own strange music. That's his record label.
Because indie is also a genre.
Some people, well, it's turned into one, and that's kind of like where you get the classification of like Modest Mouse is in there, Phantogram's in there. Like they kind of get grouped together. Basically, what people call indie music now is a mixture between alternative music and emo.
And hipster.
It's like in hipster. Yeah, it's kind of like in this like kind of circle, which isn't bad music. I'm not knocking the music. I like Modest Mouse. It's a great fucking band, and I like the Shins and stuff. Like I like this music. It's good music. It's fucking actually excellent music. But it's weird that they call it indie music because indie music wasn't that. Indie music was independently produced, recorded, and brought out by independent labels.
Let me ask you this question. You're a music guy. Do you think stuff like techno? Do you think that's like how do you feel about that?
I love it. Like, depending on the stuff, like it has. I find some genres of music has to speak louder to me. than others because I'm not as big of a fan of that style of music. Like I like.
But you can
music.
appreciate.
Oh, I absolutely appreciate it.
You listen to it, right?
I listen to certain types of techno.
Yeah,
I'm really big into.
Like got huge branches.
Oh
coming
yeah,
off of it, right?
that's like saying rock.
techno.
Like there's so many. See, that's hardcore, and then I'm more into hard style, and then there's all types of just.
See, I don't mind any of those individual styles. Like I love that there's a band I've been getting into lately called M38. Fucking amazing. They have this really weird like 80s sound with new age techno style. Fucking really good. They have an album called Junk. Check it out. Fucking awesome. I also get into things like Prodigy, which is more of like the industrial side, but that's still on the techno fucking branch, right? So like I love Prodigy. They're fucking
I used to listen
amazing.
to Prodigy, yeah.
Moby's great.
I love Moby
Chemical
too, but
Brothers.
Moby isn't techno, is it? What?
He's
There's
not.
a
Well,
certain
that's the
genre.
genre,
What's it called?
right?
What's his genre called?
Well, his is techno as far as I know.
Yeah, well, techno is
Ambience.
such a huge.
Ambience is more closer to what I think.
Yeah.
Would be. Like he's got more of like an ambient sound. He's part of a very slim group of people that don't use his voice for lyrics. He uses his voice as an instrument. It's to carry the music more. Yeah. He's not using it for anything else, and that makes sense. Like he's part of that group, which I think is ambience or ambience, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Ambience.
But that's really good. Like I love techno music. I love country music, but I don't like fucking. There's a certain point, right?
For me, it's seasonal.
Pop country, I don't like. Seasonal?
Well, pop country, I feel like it's the new country. Like
Well,
country is
it's
like a
in the
lot of
90s.
country is like, wow, it's even come back. I'd say.
It
A
is
lot of
pop.
the country is like pop country now.
Well, it has been, yeah, since the early. Like the earliest thing I can think of, I know it's early, but Garth Brooks is pop country. I'm talking real country, being like Chris Christopherson, Johnny Cash. Not so much.
No one likes Dwayne Yoakam.
Not that I don't like him, just I put him more on the popular side. But like when I think country, I'm like Willie Nelson. Yeah. Which actually, small little factoid, Willie Nelson came out with a fucking reggae album. You gotta check it out. It's really fucking cool.
What are the chances?
It's super fucking cool. But the early punk, like when we were getting to country, like in the 60s. And 50s and 70s, like in that era, is like kind of where I sit on country. Like when it comes to, I love that style of country, like rough, bad boy country.
I can't stand that. The only country I can listen to is Johnny Cash, and that's mostly because of my mom.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I love Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash is amazing, and I think Johnny Cash has like one of the biggest resurgence in music ever because nobody gave a flying fuck about Johnny Cash in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Well, that
like
movie,
almost to the point that he died.
Actually,
until after he died, because when he did,
I think it was right around Hurt when he released Hurt.
Well, that's what
he died right after that.
Like it was boom, 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 boom. Nobody gave a shit, and then there was a record producer that said, "Hey, what if we just did some covers on your next album?" Because he still had an album that he had. Because if you don't understand how contracts work, sometimes you just have to have a certain amount of albums. He still had an album.
And that's why people do greatest hits, just to get off the album.
Just to get the extra album in.
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, let's do this. I don't know what to cover. And he never heard Nine Inch Nails. He never heard half of the stuff that he covered there. He showed them. Like, he was like, listen to this. Let's do a cover of this. And he did it. That boosted his career more than anything he's probably done in the past, like, 40 years.
I must have been like 8 or something. And I saw him on like country music television or something. Yeah, something my mom used to watch. He was doing like some award, and then he sang Hurt. And then like that's the first time I saw him, and he was like playing piano for Hurt. And then he died like a week later.
Yeah, it doesn't take. He basically, when that came out, it gave him like one last jolt before he passed away. And he's a legend. He's a fucking legend.
And his version of Hurt so much better than Nine Inch Nails.
I like both of them, to be honest with you, but I do like I like the roughness of
he has
Johnny
like an
Cash's
authentic voice.
Yeah,
it's very rough, and you can tell he's old and he's having a hard time at this point. It comes across in his voice, Whereas
such an interesting
version
story.
Is
really interesting
raw.
story. Yeah,
he was huge.
And his feelings really came out in his music.
Yeah,
for sure. It was
that Walk the Line movie, man. That's such a good movie.
You should really try listening to some early country stuff. I bet you would get into it. It's a very. That was before rock and roll, because this is something like a really weird concept.
I like early country for sure.
Oh yeah,
I know Johnny Cash. Like my family would just always. I remember Thanksgiving dinners and stuff. It would just be like records playing in the basement. Johnny Cash.
That's nice.
Johnny Cash, Frank Sinatra.
Okay, I want you guys to think about something real quick. There was a time that there wasn't rock and roll. There was no rock and roll.
That was born out of country.
It was not even a concept. That was born out of like 3 people: Little Richard. Pardon me? Elvis, yeah. Little Richard, Elvis, and who's I can't remember the last. It's like Lou Reed or something like that. But the combination of those 3 guys, because Little Richard was fast. He's on the piano and he'd scream a lot. He was really loud, and he would get his point across very like loud, like, and that was Little Richard. And then you had
Little Richie.
Little Richie. And then you had Elvis, who was like starting to get progressive with his music, and it was breaking away from this country 50s sound that was kind of happening.
Elvis was huge.
Oh yeah,
my mom cried. She told me when Elvis died.
I believe it.
Nice.
That happened with John Lennon. When John Lennon passed away, a lot of people cried when that happened too. Like there's music,
super influential,
especially back then, because back then music was like a voice of that generation. Like music was important to us, but it's not as important as it was.
Well,
back
then
then.
the amount of artists back then opposed to like now, right? Like I mean.
A lot less.
Like now there's like 17,000 different genres.
I cried when Steve Jobs died, but that was more of like tears of happiness.
Yeah, I know you were super
Finally.
I looked at you as soon as I heard he died. I was like, unless Aaron had something to do with that. I don't know what, but he fucking did something with it.
There's no evidence for that.
It's really weird to think in my head that at one point there wasn't rock and roll. That wasn't a thing at some point. You know, it had to take these things going together. Hell, there was a point where black musicians didn't get paid. They would come up with music and they would just give it to the white musicians, and the white musicians would play it, and they'd get all the money from it. You know, like they would get some royalties, but not from the actual song playing. The black people would get royalties like, here's $5, we own the song, you don't own the song anymore, it's ours. And I don't think they had much choice in that. And that bled all the way into the 60s where it wasn't happening as much, but it was still happening. Jimi Hendrix was fucking poor almost all of his career. He took every penny that he had and built a fucking studio that he didn't get to finish building.
I think that's why that music is remembered more too, though, right?
Yeah,
it's like that was their livelihood, and they fought for it, and
that's something we don't have. Like things are a dime a dozen now. You know, like we could literally.
It's so easy to be in and out of the fame spot.
I could record a song right now on my computer and have better musical quality. Like I mean quality, not in the song itself, but in the actual sound, like the way that it gets recorded off of my computer, than they could in a
studio
$20,000 mix board back then.
You see that all the time. There's people dropping out of school to learn how to play or learn how to use like Pro Tools and GarageBand and shit.
Which is fucking insane. Because back then, like, watch a movie called Sound City. It's a Foo Fighters documentary, but he bought Sound City's like this recording studio in LA. Recorded all the big fucking Nevermind was recorded there. I believe Fleetwood Mac's albums, almost all of them were recorded there. There's fucking that 8675309, Rick Springfield, nobody knows by the name. That he recorded there. Like all these big fucking names recorded this. This produced so many big fucking albums, and they were out of business because nobody does analog anymore. Dave Grohl went and bought the fucking mix board off them. Because they didn't want to sell it because of how much history it was and how fucking cool that like this was an expensive mix board. They were like, if we sell it, somebody's just going to buy it and sell it up for parts to people, and that's not what we want to do. So Dave Grohl offered to buy it and use it. Past 3 albums Dave Grohl's done has been on that soundboard.
Interesting.
Yeah, pretty kind of cool. But that's what the whole documentary is, and that's the point though, is that music is so accessible to just the average day person now that everybody can put out a song.
Yeah.
Regardless of talent or not. Back in the day, back then, they had to have fucking talent. They had to move through everything. Have to work the circuits. You know, like there wasn't an internet to go off of, so you just had to play clubs.
Yeah. What I find is really cool. There's this really weird kind of, not a lot of people know about it, but people are going back to older ways of making music. Like there's these things called analog synthesizers. Giant fucking machines that you put hundreds of patch cords in, and it's just dials and knobs, and that's how people used to make noises in music.
Synthesizers were like big fucking
this is before synthesizers had keyboards. This is like fucking knobs and shit. There's a really good documentary on it. Fucking can't remember what it's called. Hardwired for something. Oh no, I Dream of Wires.
Oh, I've never heard that. I'll have to check it out.
And like David Bowie, like in like 90s, he was still using analog synthesizers because the Moog synthesizer or the Moog. It's just it's got such a unique sound that you can't reproduce it.
Is that why people are like more heading towards like records and stuff like that?
Yeah,
like,
it's
to an extent.
The sound that comes out of a record is like you can't be matched. It can't be matched with anything.
No, not at all.
The Moog synthesizer. I actually just bought a band recently that all 3 of them are using a Moog synthesizer. It's called Wizard Weed Bastard or Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard. Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard. It's a fucking weird name.
Sounds like
but
someone's
music
password.
Is fucking insanely good. I just kind of like went off and tried it. I saw it for like $20. I'm like, I'll give it a shot, and it's fucking amazing. Yeah. But they use those analog fucking synthesizers.
I love just watching videos. Like There's a documentary where it shows how the soundtrack for Halo 3 was made. And there's this guy using this analog synthesizer. And it's like, you're doing these things that sound can never be reproduced unless someone has the same synthesizer, has everything plugged in the same way, using the exact same settings on every knob.
Well, there's one of my favorite bands, like really high up there anyways, MSI, Mindless Self-Indulgence. Jimmy Urine, it's his lead singer. Anyway, he uses those analog synthesizers, but I watched an interview with him where he was like in his storage shed. And he's like, yeah, you know, like every time I buy a synthesizer, I buy like 3 of the exact same one. So that way, if this one fucks up, I've got a backup of another 2 if I need it. Because they're so fucking hard to get.
Oh,
but he's like, I can't
are so
take
rare.
the sound and get it off of like...
Do they make them still? Like, can you...
No, they don't make them anymore. You gotta buy the old ones.
I think Moog, whatever, recently came out with something that's like mini and you can do it. But it's not the same. It's all digital.
Yeah, it's definitely different. And that was his argument. He's like, I buy these when they come out, when I see them on eBay, because you can't replicate this sound with anything else. Right, and it basically makes something that is against organic sound, because like synthesizers are not organic. But compared to what synthesizers are now, this is as close to organic synthesizers as you can possibly get is by having these things, and it doesn't have the same sort of sound. So I think it's a lost art, and there's only a few people out there that still really do it and do it well. Because anybody could fucking do it. It would just sound like shit. Yeah, exactly. You just have to know what you're doing. But yeah, it's unbelievable.
In Halo 3, you know the sound when your shields go down and then they come back up and it's like, woo. He makes that by having a cup and a metal ball on this synthesizer that is using light and magnets, and he moves the ball around the cup and it makes that sound. And that's how he made that sound.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It's really crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some pretty interesting stuff. Like if you want to go like to really strange music, there's a band that they've only came out with 2 albums in the 90s, but you should check them out. They're called the Neutral Milk Hotel. If you go to their... If you go through their, like... I know, it's a fucking weird name, but if you go through their, like, the instruments they use, like, fucking the weirdest shit, like aspirin bottles and stuff. And they're credited on the album. There's, like, over 80 different instruments on the album, the first album. Fucking really cool.
I don't know why this story popped in my head, but I thought about when you said making instruments. I remember in, like, grade 7, we had to, like, make our own instruments from, like, home products. You know what I mean? And then, like, bring them to school for music class. And one of the girls brought in, you know, on the top of, like, those old... glass juice bottles, like they were like an orange juice bottle with like the cap.
Oh yeah, the clicker cap.
Oh yeah. Brought those in. Was like, this is my instrument, and I just remember being like, you're an idiot.
It is though. It's an instrument. It's the timing.
It's a sound. I think I got like a Kleenex box with like elastic. You know what I mean? Like
a guitar. Like to make kind of like a sound of a guitar. Yeah, that works. It works.
Totally.
Like, that's it. I watched one guy take a carrot and drill a hole in a carrot and put a reed in it.
I've seen that.
Yeah, you put a reed in it and put the holes and just fucking play it. Kind of like flutish, almost like a recorder. Close to
what a terrible sound that I hate
recorders.
Like worst even like good recorder players. Like, have you ever?
There's no such thing.
Can you imagine being a music teacher and teaching kids how to play the recorder?
The reason why the recorders, it's that noise.
Oh, like all day long.
It's the easiest instrument to learn to start. That's how most musicians start. They start on it because you're learning.
And I think the breath pitch and everything is very precise too, right? Like you have to be.
It's the very beginning part.
You can't just blow.
I got into instruments because of my recorder. It's not that I liked recorders. It's just I liked being able to create something that was like music.
Yeah, totally.
So I moved on. Like the recorder. That's why you don't hear recorders in music unless you're Weird Al. Like it's the only time you see fucking recorders in music nowadays is because he thinks it's funny.
It's mocking.
It's more mocking than anything else. Yeah. And like the recorders, there are some people that like really take the recorders fucking seriously.
I knew a guy who had like a $200 recorder in like grade 6. I was like, "What are you doing with your life, sir?"
Why? Who are you playing
13.
This for?
There is way better uses of your money.
Serenade my girlfriend with this recorder.
It started as a recorder for me, and then I moved into doing a baritone, and then
I did saxophone.
No, baritone, like tuba baritone.
Oh, okay.
It's the one that's like
yeah.
We play like that.
Yeah. I was playing drums.
Trombone.
I did drums.
See, I always wanted to do drums and bass and guitar when I was in school, but I could never do it because everybody fucking picked it right away. And
that was the issue, right? Like, because there was only like one bassist allowed and stuff, right?
I was like, man, this is what I want to learn. I don't want to fucking learn the trumpet.
Yeah.
I have no desire.
I tried the trumpet, but I destroyed that thing, and they're just like, all right, you can play drums.
All right.
Yeah, like I was a lazy fucking kid. I was a lazy fucking kid.
Play the tambourine.
Just play the beat.
Instead of shaking and bouncing. Bink. I don't know, man. It's interesting how people kind of get to where they're going, like all progression wise. But Anyway,
sorry.
Yeah, we kind of went on a big tangent at the beginning. For a half-hour introduction. It's all right. We wanted to wing this one anyway. So, I mean, today's topic is, I don't know, over the past couple of weeks especially, I've been kind of like, I don't know, like thinking about how I was before, kind of like almost nostalgically thinking about my life as a child and then moving into now and where I am sitting right now. But I've been kind of thinking that it would be a good idea for us to kind of like talk about growing up and responsibilities and how to balance life and work, because I think it's something that people always kind of think about but never really talk about. I don't think people sit there talking about like, what do you do to balance your work life and your actual like day-to-day life, the shit that you just do for fun versus stuff you have to do, because like I know myself and Steph, we tend to have like a Monday as our fucking adult day where we just gotta go and do all of laundry and bullshit that just needs to get done.
Yeah.
And I remember being a kid with little responsibility and watching my parents do this shit, and I never really thought of it back then of like, oh, this is something that I'm going to be doing. I should probably pay attention to this type of thing at a younger age. So I never really paid attention to that stuff, and now I'm just, it's like naturally this is just what I do, you know, like we got our little things we have to do. So I'm kind of curious, like Dwight, where do you kind of like sit on this type of like, how were you younger and how do you feel you've changed, and where do you separate the two?
Well, I think school's for sure one of those. Like, I remember there was a few pivotal points where I was like, I'm becoming an adult, and I remember one of them was getting a driver's license. Like, I remember like that was like the first time you kind of get like your sense of freedom to like just be on your own. You know what I mean? Like
when you got it.
I was like, well, I did the driver's ed when I was 15. I got
so
it
like
as soon
really
as
early?
possible.
Okay.
Like as soon as I possibly, like the day I could possibly get the license is when I got. I was 16, but it was like
so
the
really
day I
young,
could.
okay.
And I ended up actually driving to BC that year and driving to Vancouver to buy my
That's a
license.
fucking
But
intense
when
drive.
I was like
for somebody
16.
that young.
12 hours.
Eagle hit my windshield on the way back. It was nutty.
An eagle hit your fucking windshield?
I'm not even joking.
How the
Like
fuck
it destroyed my entire windshield.
Yeah.
I was shit my pants. I was like, just got my license 2 weeks ago. It was terrible. Anyways, I thought it was like
eagle felt.
It didn't feel good. It fucking took a toll on my windshield, but I don't even know what happened to him. I didn't even look. I just like kept driving.
Oh, he's probably dead.
Behind me. It probably was dead. I don't know.
It would be dead, yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't last.
But like I remember like getting driver's license was like a huge pivotal point. But I remember like you kind of talked about like the stresses of being an adult and balancing the two. I almost find I don't think it's more, I don't want to say it's more stressful when you're an adult, because like I remember in school, like for me anyways, I remember it was like I would never want to go back and do grade school or high school again. Like as much as it was good, but like and you think about it now, it's like
nostalgic feeling towards it at all. Like you miss a simpler time.
Yeah,
you know
I miss when I had no
listen,
responsibility.
Listen, it was nice, but I was working when I was like 13 full time. So like I mean, before that, it was like bike riding and stuff like that, and it was like sure that was fun, right? But that's like when you're, I think when you hit like 13 years old is like, well for me anyways, is like I don't remember much before, you know what I mean? Like before 10, I'd say like I don't remember too much. But like I just remember like when I'm 13 years old and like the responsibilities of like bullies, for example, like people in school that are just like acting mean towards other kids, and the bullies and the teachers and the stress of like, and like now I look back on it and I'm like, God, that was easy, right? I just had to wake up, go learn some shit and have fun.
Yeah, simple.
And then come home. It
Stay
sounds so
awake,
great,
basically.
but like when you're at that age, like it's not, you don't look at it at school that way. You don't look at it as like, oh, this is a gift every single day and then I get to go into it and I get to learn and I want to absorb as much as I can, because social influence and peer pressure and bullies and all these other external factors play such a huge role in kids. Like me and my sister, for example, we both grew up in the exact same household with my mom. And we became two different people, and it was because of who we hung out with in school, right? Like the social influence of kids that were in school. And I just remember like that, those stresses almost, I thought were more, I thought that was harder now that I look at it than where I'm at right now. Like I can manage at least, and I understand life more now, whereas then I thought of it as like, okay, now I gotta go to school tomorrow. Like it was a day-to-day thinking. It wasn't like, where do I see myself in a year? It was like, tomorrow I don't want to get picked on, and I don't want to, you know what I mean? I'm going to get through my day, and you know what I mean? Like, I thought of it as, like, getting through the day opposed to, you know, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I know exactly what you're saying. I actually have a question regarding
I'm still kind of living like that.
I'm going to mention something that happened to me as a child, and I'm curious of yours. Okay, like, my first or earliest lesson of being a man or being an adult was given to me from my principal when I was moving from North Bay to here. They sat me down and they said, just so you know, here's your time to choose what path you're going to go on, your friends are ultimately going to help decide who you're going to be.
Yeah.
And choose your friends wisely. And that was like the first time.
Totally.
Oh yeah, and that was the first time I had a lesson where I like as of right now when I think back, that's the first real lesson I think I got taught. I'm curious if you remember what your first real lesson was to become a man or to become an adult, like not men, women, but just an adult in general.
Like I remember this because it was when my sister had her friend over. Her friend was Jordan, and they were playing in the living room. And I remember throwing a toy car not throwing a toy. I was bugging this girl, like her friend, and then she threw a toy car at me.
Did you have a crush on her?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
right.
like
Just making sure.
Like right, like
just seeing if you're right. Yeah, okay, all right.
And her dad came over, and he lit me up, man. Like he was like, because she started crying because I threw a car at her or whatever. She was crying.
I thought she threw a car at you.
Yeah, that's what I'm
sorry. She was crying. She tattled on me. Either way, she tattled on me.
I see.
She brought her dad over. Like her dad came over and she was crying. So what I remember is her crying and Willie coming over and like just lit me up, man. Like, you never touch a fucking, like just screaming in my face. And I remember almost pooping my pants, being terrified. And from that day on, I like never spoke back to a girl. I never like, it was like
lesson learned.
Yeah, girls run the show here. I'm not. Yeah, lesson learned. I was terrified.
Okay.
So that was like.
Now you have a baby girl on the way. How do you feel about putting yourself in
Don't
that position?
remind me.
Oh my gosh.
You're going to have to talk to that boy one day and be like, don't touch my daughter.
I know I will. And you know what? As soon as I heard I had a girl, it was like this pit in my stomach. And I still get it every single day. And I'm just like, and it's like all I worry about is that now. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas I never had before, it was always like, I travel, cool, whatever, live life on the edge, don't really care. And now it's like, even when Christy drives home, I'm just like, there's a pit in the bottom of my stomach, like, please be home safe. Like, I don't.
It's
like,
legit.
It's
seriously, like it's a whole new. You're not thinking about yourself anymore, right? You're thinking about other people.
Oh, and it's
as soon
scary.
as I found out that it was a girl, though, I just thought of you being in a field, grabbing this fucking soccer ball you had purchased. Like, I don't need this anymore. Fuck this. Which is perfectly okay because girls can play soccer and stuff. I could see you like thinking that way. Like, I'm not gonna
throwing out all this shit.
Like, fucking don't need the baseball.
There goes the
bat.
baseball club.
Well, here goes everything.
But the thing is, nowadays it's not like that anymore. It's so encouraging to have your child, and I think right now to have a girl like is the best time to have a girl.
Sure,
yeah. Like, you can have them.
Women
do
equality
they want,
is better now than it was.
You can
right?
play baseball. You can do soccer. You can do bowling. I can't wait for the day that you're in a dress playing tee. It's gonna happen.
Me either.
Please take some pictures.
Yeah.
Get Christy to send them.
I definitely won't do that.
That'll be on the Facebook page. We're saying it right here. It's a guarantee.
It's a party, Dwight. Yeah. So I mean, like, I thought school was like, I just think of the stresses and stuff in school now, and I think it's like now, and we talked about this on a previous podcast that like maybe if I was in school and they taught kids how to like manage their stress better and how to, you know, everyone treat everyone as equals, and they gave you more life skills, maybe it would have been a different story for me. But I know now, going through high school and junior high, I almost thought that was, if we're talking about stress and like, I thought that was a harder time than it is now. Because now it seems like most people's stresses, and when we talk about a home work-life balance, it all revolves around money, right? Like, it's like, if money was taken out of the equation, I think, then a lot of people would find life as an adult, I think, a lot more enriching or enhancing, or, you know what I mean? Like, it would be a better experience, right? Whereas, like, before it was social influence and how kids treated you and whatever, and now it's more, can I sustain myself and live, right?
Well, that's the argument for like universal basic income, where everyone gets a set amount of money no matter how much they make.
Right. That's a cool, yeah, I like that. But money's the stress, right? It's
well, that saying's real. More money, more problems is a real thing. Like, it sounds dumb, but it's true. The more money you have, the more chances that there's something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah, you just have more expensive shit.
Well, the issue is like, I'm a guy who made like a lot of money, and I'm a guy who had.
We saw your house. It looks fucking gorgeous.
So I've been on both sides of the pendulum, right? Like, and I'll tell you right now, it doesn't matter if you're making $100,000 or if you're making $20,000. If you're making $100,000, you'll find more things to spend it on and useless shit. And I bought like useless whatever and nonsense stuff. And if I'm $20,000, I was just buying a little less nice shit, but it was all the same. I was spending my money. You know what I mean? I was putting a bit to savings, but life was the same. Like, life wasn't better when I was making $100,000 or if I was $20,000. It was literally like, it was a day to day, like, how I handled my, like, money. What I'm saying is money doesn't buy happiness is what I'm getting at. And as crazy as it sounds, as many times as you guys have heard that, it's totally true. It's like it really doesn't determine. It shouldn't determine how you feel, and it shouldn't determine, how the important things in life, right? Like it's corny as it sounds. It really, and we've talked about this before, Aaron. It's like
definitely.
It's just it doesn't matter if I gave you $100,000 right now.
I think it does. Can I have $100,000?
Yeah.
Sure, it would help you for a year or two, right? But I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, it's not going to make your life any better. Well, it's not going to.
I think life.
If it is, then you're doing it wrong.
In order for you to grow properly, I think you need stress there to be able to grow properly. So, regardless of anything, stress is going to find its way into your life.
Sure.
I think stress makes good, interesting people. Do you know anyone who has had what you would say, like, I'm sure everybody has their own problems. I don't mean to make anyone's problems seem less, but have you ever met anyone who you think they have the perfect life, they've never had anything go wrong, and they're just boring as fuck?
Oh, yeah.
And everybody I know who is funny or interesting or has something good to say has gone through some sort of hardship in their life.
Or something.
Yeah. They've gone through something.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Getting back to what you were saying about like when you realized you had your first adult decision, I kind of grew up in a bit of an atypical situation. I guess my mom left my dad with me and my kid.
All three of them.
All three.
3 kids.
I got 3 kids when I was 8.
Brother.
Yeah, me and my brother when I was probably 8 or 9. And it was not your typical. It was like, get out of there. Very long and complicated. But
You'd be surprised how typical some of that stuff is now. There's a lot of people that like without a dad in their life it's a different type of growing up. When you have it there, it's different, right?
And I was immediately thrown into a single parent situation. And when you're like that, you kind of develop those skills a little bit faster. I kind of think of myself as a little bit more mature because when I was 8 and 10, I was taking care of my mom.
Did you personally have a need, like you felt like you needed to learn faster, or did it just naturally happen?
Well, a little bit of both, but yeah.
Okay.
I've always been super close with my mom, and I always felt like I needed to take care of my mom, and I still do that to this day. And like when I was 14, my mom was diagnosed with this kind of 1 in a million rare syndrome called Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is like an autoimmune deficiency. And she was hospitalized. She was in the intensive care unit for, I think, 3 weeks. And then she stayed in the hospital for another couple months. So at that point, my mom was gone, and it was just me and my brother. And that was kind of my first lesson of like, she's not always going to be here for me. I got to learn how to take care of myself.
Sorry, how old were you when that happened?
14.
That's a really young age to have to be fending on your own for a couple weeks.
It was me and my 16-year-old brother. Like, he had a bunch of money saved up that we ended up, like, spending most of it. And, like, just taking care of shit. And, like, my mom, my aunt was sort of there for us. Like, she tried, but that was a really hard situation. And I think I've grown a lot from it. It's made me realize a lot about the way of the world and just how people are in general.
Yeah, I know. You can see that I haven't known you for a terribly long amount of time. I've known you for a couple of years now. I do remember, this was before Dwight was in the picture, you living with a lot of people from work. You were all living in the same house. And
I wasn't living there.
Oh, I thought you were.
No, I lived with Zach, and before that, Zach lived with Ed and Josh. But I lived right beside them.
Oh, that's how it worked? Okay,
yeah.
I wasn't sure, because I remember when the breakup, like, whatever happened, like, they couldn't live there anymore. I thought you were part of that, and you were like, fuck, I need to find a place to live.
No, I was always there.
Okay, so you're always at that place? It just Zach moved in with you? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I was staying with my brother. Like, my brother lived there before, and then he moved out, and then I had another roommate, and then he moved out, and then Zach moved in.
Well, the point of what I'm trying to say is, though, I saw that sense of responsibility on you right away. Like, you never once were like, I'm fucked. You were always like, okay, well, I just got to figure out how I'm going to do this month. And
well, I always think I'm fucked. But
you don't express it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you're not saying, like, you're not putting it out there that way. I always see you trying to find solutions, which is something you don't always see in people.
Sometimes you got to look at it as, like, too, like, I can relate because it was the same thing. My mom left my dad when I was 5.
Yeah.
I remember we were in Vancouver. We just packed up a few boxes. She came to Winnipeg with just me and my sister. And, like, it was the same thing, right? Like, you learn how to take care of yourself, and you know that, like, you can't, and you grab, like, you almost grow a bigger bond for me, I'm like a huge mama's boy now, and I would do anything.
It makes you a lot closer to your family.
Makes you a lot closer to your family, and you know, like, if I look at it now, and I know it's harder to, like, I appreciate my mom for what she did more
Definitely.
Because of what happened. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it was...
My mom's the strongest person I know.
Mine too. Exactly, right? And we probably feel the same way because of those life events, maybe, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I've always had my mother and my father. I mean, it was a little different. Like, my dad worked in Toronto. We lived in North Bay, so I'd only see him, like, once every 2 weekends, or a weekend every, like, twice out of the month. That's it. And it was just because he had to stay out there. So, like, I watched my mom kind of raise us, but I watched how difficult it was for her to just be by herself for 2 weeks at a time, and then just my dad show up for a week. So, I mean, to put her in that bad situation, like, not bad. I mean, they made it through no problem, but like she got highly depressed, and it was a very hard time for her. And like that's something me and my brother had to deal with. But ultimately, my dad was there trying to support. So like to be by herself 100% would be so insanely difficult.
I guess to sum it up, like, it doesn't matter when we talk about adulthood and we talk about growing up and maturity. I don't think you can put like an age to it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you're an adult when you're 18. I don't think that's the case.
It depends on circumstances.
More grown up than a 24-year-old. You know, like,
definitely.
I know guys that live at home until they're 30, right? And they don't.
One of my best
hard to
friends
manage on their own, right?
Like, he's been living with his mom forever. You know, and
Yeah.
he probably will.
Yeah.
It's like his dad was the same way. His dad lived with his mom for his entire life until he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm almost certain this is the exact same thing that's going to happen with him. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that life, I guess. Like, from an outsider's perspective, though, like, I always, at a young age, like, for myself growing up, I always, like, this is talking about the same friend, I was always jealous because he could always, like, get whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, just fucking say he wanted, and he fucking got it. Mom would pay for this. He needs a new car, grandma would pay for this. And, like, everything he ever wanted just got handed to him. And I was always, like, I remember having conversations with my mom. Yeah, almost resentful, but he was, like, one of my best friends at the same time. So, like, I had conversations with my mom where I was, like, this isn't fair, you know, like, I have got to work so hard to get all these things, but as I grew up, I felt more inclined that, like, I'm happy that I had to do this stuff myself, because right now, he's still living at home with his mother, and I'm on my own, saving for a house, married, happy, and, like, I feel that if I had those things handed to me, I'd probably still be sitting in my parents' basement, you know, like, living there.
Definitely,
yeah, and like, I think that type of thing is again, you know, it's fine for some people. That's how they want to live. That's how they want to live, and I'm not here to judge them for that. But I feel that was like a growing up thing for me. You know, like when
we talk about growing up maturity, I think like a big part of like when someone says they're grown up, it's like, or how you can tell if someone's mature is like how they treat other people.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally like you kind of go self-absorbed when you're a kid, right? Like, a lot of the time you just think about yourself, what you're gonna do. And like, it's all about you, right?
Selfish,
and it's like,
as a lot of people stay that way.
A lot of people stay that way, yeah, totally, right? And then, but like, I think a good way to say like how I would say someone's mature or someone's growing is, you know, how they treat other people. It's totally like
the sense of empathy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to have some kind of like, if you're a dick, you know what I mean? Like, all you care about is yourself, and you're not looking out for anyone but you, and you don't care about other people's feelings. Like, the world is gonna look at you as like this immature, shitty person, right?
Absolutely.
But if you,
what was that?
Donald Trump.
But
Sorry,
exactly.
weird tickle in my throat.
Yeah, no, I think like it's like as you grow up and you see like people doing things. Man, the other day I saw a bunch of like, so this is a random thing that made me think about it. I saw a bunch of like 12-year-old kids in our ditch out front picking up garbage.
Wow.
I was like, this is fucking awesome. And it's just
I don't have to do that today.
I don't have to go in the ditch and pick shit. But no, it's how you treat people, right? And just be a good person and just be nice to other people. And it's totally like a respect thing. And you know, that I think that's really what shows maturity. It's just how you're making the world a better place by you being a good person.
I definitely agree with that.
Asshole.
And I think the way you treat people is definitely a good sense of how you are as a person, and that like bleeds into every part of your life and every aspect of your life.
The work-life balance too, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I was just about to say. To bring it into the next part, how do you feel that? Because like for myself, especially recently, within the past 2 months, I've been feeling like I'm not balancing myself properly.
It's, you know what, I think that's actually one of the number one problems is people can't divide work from their personal life, and they can't divide which one's more like. Because let's just say like there's not one. If you're doing what you're passionate about and you love your work, there still should be a divide between your personal life, like that. There has to be a balance there regardless, right?
Yeah.
Your personal life, so you have to have, you know, pros on both. You can make the best of both sides, but it's easy to get absorbed into one life more than the other, and that's why it's always called a balance. Because like if you're becoming a workaholic, which is a bad thing. Like if all you're thinking about every single day is work, and you go home and you're thinking about work and you're stressed about work, and then you come and you go to work again, your life is going to be a stressful mess, and you have no control over how your life goes. Because what's going to determine how you feel that day is going to be determined how well work goes. And you have no control over other people, like especially if us in the restaurant business, like you have no control over how other people are feeling. Maybe customers are angry that day. Maybe whatever the case is, you have no control over that. Like it's not something you can control. One thing you can control is your personal life. So if you're getting absorbed into this world that you can't control, like work, and you're not able to divide the two, your work is going to be literally determined on other people's feelings. Your life is going to be, right? So how other people are going to act to you that day. So I don't think it's fair to yourself to get into that pattern. And it's hard for a lot of people because people are workaholics, right? A lot of people think just about work. But at the end of the day, I know for myself, like even if I've had the worst day possible, and I've got yelled at by my boss, and I've had the worst possible day ever, I still can go home, and I know it's like something you gotta just learn over time because it's easy to say, but it's like even if I work with Christy, right, too, and it's like I can be yelling at her at work, and we could be having an argument at work, but at the end of the day when I go home, it's like it turns off for me. I can just turn it off, and I can just now we can talk about our personal life. Now we can talk about how we are at home because I know if I carried that over to my evening, my world would just become
that's
work and
super
stress,
important,
right?
Especially when you're living with someone you work with.
Yeah, which is something I have to deal with too. Right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that
I did for a while with Zach?
Do you guys have conversations about work at home, or is that something you've totally?
You know what? Like I'm very we do sometimes. Don't get me wrong, and it's usually about people or something like good that's happened, right? Like we try not to talk about the bad things at work, and it comes up sometimes. It's gonna come up because like you're living a big chunk of your life at work.
Yeah.
So like not to talk about it is like unrealistic a lot of the time, but what we usually do is like. And we've talked about like setting like maybe an hour, or she'll talk. Maybe it's a bad day and you need to vent. Okay, like let's have 1 hour. You can vent and talk about work, and then after this hour is up, that's it. Like we're not going to be talking about it anymore. That's it. Or there'll be like one topic we'll talk about, and I'll say like, "Okay, stop. I don't want to hear it anymore. Let's just not talk about it. Like let's worry about it tomorrow." Because at the end of the day, like the thing a lot of managers don't understand, and a lot of people, like especially when you're carrying more responsibility at work, is that every single day is going to be a problem. There's like to have a perfect week. To have a perfect year, to have it like it's people. We're not dealing with robots. It's people, and like your managing is gonna be like, you can't control if someone's sick. You can't control if like you know what I mean. Like you can't control that thing. So if it's so important that you're dividing the two. That's all I'm saying. Is what I'm getting at is you have to say, okay, I got to turn it off when I get home. Maybe it's like doing a 5-minute meditation. Maybe it's doing yoga. Maybe it's doing exercise. Whatever it is, you have to figure out a way to turn it off because. Again, you're never going to have a perfect... There's no such thing as having a perfect day at work.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be issues. Like someone will say like, oh, I can't go to sleep, or I can't stop thinking about it because I haven't had the schedule done, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I can't... You're going to always be behind. And once the schedule's done and you got that perfect, guess what? There's going to be another problem that arises.
Yeah.
So again, like if you get caught into this where you're stressing about work and things that happen there, you're going down a downward spiral because you can't control how other people are, and you can't ever expect a perfect week, a perfect day, a perfect anything. It's just you got to take it all as it is. That's why you just always put a smile on your face. That's why I try to go in and I just try to cheer everyone up and make jokes and have fun the best I can because I spend so much time at work, and I just know at the end of the day that if I got involved with all the issues and I brought them home with me, it would make for a toxic environment and a toxic life. So.
See, I think
it's very important to
us three in particular. Yeah, no, it was good. I think between the three of us, we have a very diverse home life. Let's put it that way. I'm freshly married. You have a baby on the way. You are basically taking care of somebody, and like
I got my own baby.
Yeah,
my mom,
my
mama.
Yeah. You do, but you it's very diverse, and we all have very different ages that we're in right now. We've learned recently that
I don't think we've ever said that.
Oh yeah, we've never mentioned that. Like I'm 35, right, Steph?
Right.
Yeah, I'm 35 right now. I turned 36 this year. I never know my age.
I'm kind of the same way.
I'm 36.
You're 34, turning 35.
Ed doesn't know how old he is.
I'm turning 35 this year.
Apparently, according to his wife.
I have no idea. I don't bother. I never really cared after age like 25. I stopped caring. I was like, whatever. Birthday's a birthday.
Whatever. Yeah.
But like I'm at age 35. Dwight.
27.
And Aaron.
24.
Yeah. Okay. So you had to think about it
Yeah,
too, right?
I don't know my birthday.
We're in three very different parts of life, you know, like,
Yeah.
and I think that's like, but the balance doesn't need to differ, right? We were talking about work, like earlier when you were saying, being able to kind of like go to work and kind of scrape that mask of like, okay, shit's gonna happen, right? I tried going in for, and this is probably like about a month ago. I was doing this like for a couple months, but I stopped about a month ago because it wasn't working. Kind of going in, not caring, but just being like, okay, and then just whatever happens happens. And I feel that distanced me too far from it. So I was like, okay, well, I got to start taking it a little bit.
Said
like,
who though?
Pardon me?
Said who?
What do you mean?
Like, did you feel distant? Like
I felt
yourself?
distance. Yeah, no, I felt more distant. Nobody said I was distant.
You just
I
felt
just, I
distant.
kind of like, I was recognizing it.
Right.
It made home life a little bit easier. You know, like it wasn't like bitching about what happened at work and stuff. There was a few here and there, but for the most part, it wasn't. Maybe actually, you know what? Maybe sometimes a little bit more because I wasn't able to express stuff at work. You know, like every once in a while, like when we did have a conversation, it was more of like a bigger conversation when we had it. But I started realizing, and brought to me from my superior saying that that they don't feel that I'm like putting forth the right effort. And I felt like when it was talked to me about it, I knew I was like, yeah, no, I agree with you. It's not a disagreement. I feel that exact same way.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to like change up things. I feel a little bit better about me, like the way that I'm changing things up, but I'm still having a very hard time balancing work itself. Like forget balancing work and home because I am doing the both, and I think for the most part I'm kind of doing it okay. I still need to like work on some stuff for that balance, but right now I need to balance work itself. I think I need to get the right amount of like what's too much effort and what's too little. Because when I first started doing this, I was doing 6 days a week, 10-hour days constantly, and it wore me out.
Well, the issue too when it comes to work and when it comes to a lot of people, like for you, for example, I'm just gonna go out.
Yeah,
so
no,
this is
go
what
for it.
I think that you determine sometimes like how, or a lot of people do. No, I'm not gonna say just you. A lot of people think that okay, if I put forth 10 hours of work today, it was a good day. Like I'll be appreciated for how much work I put in. And it's based on an hour time. Like, okay, I was there for 12 hours today. I was there for 11 hours today. I was there for, you know what I mean? So that those days in your mind are successful. A lot of people, right? It's like the more hours I put in, the more successful of a day it is.
Yeah.
Which is not the case at all.
Yeah,
like
and I did
my,
an 11.5 hour with Aaron on Sunday, and I felt like accomplished, but not necessarily.
Yeah, like to me, like how I've always done it is if, you know, if you're working your ass off and you get everything on your checklist, okay, I go into Monday and I need to do this. I want to have the conversations with this, and this person. And if I've accomplished all those things and it took me 6 hours, then it took me 6 hours. If it takes me 12 hours, then it takes me 12 hours. But I'm not going to be like, determine the success of my day based on how many hours are worked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying.
So it's hard too because like you can't, if you're feeling that like to get justified about how good you're doing at work and how great it is based on the amount of time you're investing into it, it's almost the wrong way about going, or the wrong way going about it, right? It should just be like, have I, like, because sure, you've been there for 12 hours, but what did you accomplish in 12 hours?
Yeah.
Or sure, I've been there for 4 hours, what did you accomplish in 4 hours? Maybe you accomplished it all.
For me, it's a little bit different as a closer because I'm generally there until the same time every day, unless it's super busy.
If something happens to change it.
Yeah, I generally have the same stuff to do. So when I feel that I've done everything and I feel satisfied is when not only is everything clean and shut off, but I've done extra work. And I usually don't feel satisfied until I've done something extra that I think other people wouldn't necessarily do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a fair assessment as well. Like, I mean, I think if everybody puts a little bit extra effort, everything gets done, and that's kind of how it always kind of happens. You should have
But
somebody
just know,
dictating it
I think the feeling you got to know is that if you've done everything you possibly could, whether it be 4 hours, whether it be 6 hours, if you feel like you've done everything you possibly could in that given time frame, there's nothing you ever need to carry home with you.
That's true.
Like, there's never anything. You can't look back on your day and say, like, you know, if you tried your hardest, right? Like, if you did everything, you're like, I tried my hardest today. I did everything I could in the time I was there. Why would you ever feel bad about your day? Why would you ever have anything to bitch about? Like, if you've done everything you can, and you have mentally thought that anyways, right? Like, even whether you have or not, if you thought you have, then you cannot leave having that feeling, right, of guilt or whatever with you.
So my question for you is, because I've seen this on you a couple times throughout the past, 6 months or something like that, where I'm pretty sure you felt you have done what you needed to do, everything is done, but somebody above you feels that you haven't. How do you deal with that situation?
Like, before like I would say if I was like previous manager roles or whatever it may be, like I always had it like some days I knew I had to put in 10 hours and other days I knew, like I think it's useless waste of time if I'm there and I don't need to be there. Like if I'm there and I know I'm stressing myself out, and tomorrow I'm going to come in more stressed because I know I've worked 10 hours or whatever it is, and I know that I'm going to be resentful because I had to work that many hours, and I know I'm going to go home cranky. I think it's much more beneficial for every single party if I worked maybe 8 hours and then left because I had nothing else to do, because my day was over. What I had set out for the day was accomplished. If I just leave. Does that answer your question?
A little bit, yeah. Like my curiosity was like, if you feel accomplished, what keeps you in that accomplishment pocket? Mm-hmm. If somebody doesn't feel you have, or do you get yourself out of that pocket? Now you're like, okay, maybe I didn't.
It's not. I'm determining if I'm accomplished that day or not. Yeah. Right? Like it's not if anyone else says, like I don't want, like if you have to rely on someone saying like, Aaron, you did a good job today. Yeah. And if that's what, like, Ed, you did great today. Like if you need that.
I almost feel like sometimes I put that on myself, that I do need that validation sometimes that I did a good job.
See, I think that should just be a bonus.
Yeah. Try to just, as long as in your mind, if you look back on your day and said, like, this is what I set out to do, and I accomplished it, and you did it all, then you can't leave, like, you should be, like, patting yourself on the, and if you didn't, to me, this is how I think, right? If you did it in 8 hours, or if you did it in 4 hours, or if you did it in 10 hours, it shouldn't really matter, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It should just be, okay, I've put forth, I've done my daily objective, it's complete, now I can go take care of myself at home so that tomorrow I can come back in and I'm at 100% again. That I don't come in tomorrow resentful, I don't come in tomorrow exhausted, I don't come in tomorrow maybe sick because I didn't get enough sleep. I come in tomorrow with the mindset that I accomplished everything the day before and I'm ready to take on this day.
By the sounds of things, this key thing, like what you're talking about right here, is the thing that's helping you balance your life and your work. Because you're doing this and you've set this, like, this is how I feel accomplished now that I feel accomplished, you're going home and you have this, I'm not bringing work with me kind of mentality on you, because I've gotten what I needed done, I've left it there.
And even if I haven't gotten what I've done, even if I know I still have this and this and this to do, and I didn't, you know what I mean, I didn't do the beer orders and I didn't do all this stuff, and I knew I had to do it that day, or I should have gotten it done that day, I still don't leave being like, I knew there was a reason I didn't get it done. You know what I mean? Like I knew there was maybe I was getting exhausted near the end of the day. I had 2 rushes. I was tired, and I would have been fucked up on the order because I was too tired to write it down. Maybe that was the case, but I know if I left for a reason. Okay. You know what I mean? I've decided in my mind that enough was enough. I've done exactly what I needed to do today, and I can't. If I went home every day and felt guilty about not doing something at work,
you're working all the time.
Right? I'm working all the time. I'd be fucked, man. I'd be exhausted all the time. I'd be stressed all the time. And the same goes when you look at it the other way, right? Your personal life. If you haven't gone your workout in, if you haven't ate the meals that you want to eat, if you haven't done the yoga that you said you were going to do, if you haven't done grocery shopping that you said you were going to do that day, there's always that sense of like guilt or whatever because you haven't put forth the most effort you could have in your personal life, right? Like if you have a day where you do nothing all day, you didn't get any of your grocery shopping done, didn't get any of your laundry done, didn't get anything done, now you got dirty clothes for the whole week or whatever, right? Like how shitty do you feel about that, right? Now that brings it into work, right?
I find that becomes a loop almost.
It becomes a loop.
Yeah, you feel so that way, which makes you not do it again.
Stress, and now work's stressful, and then
yeah, it becomes this vicious loop, a cycle, basically. Exactly. You know, like, I didn't get this stuff done, so I should probably get it done, but I feel bad that I didn't get it done, so I guess I'm not going to do it. That's so right. It just becomes a, like, constant, like, this is just, it's something that I've been seeing quite a bit lately. And I've been trying to, like, do different things. Like, not that I do that, I think I've been pretty good and fair on everything that I've been doing for the most part, trying to balance it out. Yeah. But I've been trying to, like, feel better about it at the end of the day. I've been trying a lot of, we've actually been talking about this, like, different experiments of things that I can try and do to kind of change some stuff. I've been taking vitamin greens, like veggie greens, trying to like take that. Which, by the way, I'm going to keep you updated on that as I go. I'm like my 5th time doing it. I don't necessarily feel that my pee's yellow. That's a big thing. That's a big change. But like, I mean, aside from that, you know, like I feel a little bit more aware and awake in the morning, more so than I would with coffee. Yeah. And that's trying to change up my daily routine. The other thing that I've been trying to do, off of your suggestion actually, Dwight, was the meditation I've been trying to do. And now I get conflicting things on each side, okay? Because I've talked to somebody, she'll remain not anonymous at the moment, but it was like, because when you say you're like, my meditation is to reflect on the day, and then it's to do nothing, right?
Sure.
It's on the other side. I'm like,
there's no right or wrong.
Yeah, that's what I'm
trying to say.
Like, what's the right, what's the wrong? You know, like some days, like out of the 5 times that I've done it, there's days that I'm trying to keep myself blank, and it works to a degree, like always focusing in on the breathing on things and trying to get myself out of thought process. But then there's times that like I'm meditating and I'm doing the thinking process of trying to reflect on the day, and it gets very toxic thinking about it. Like I start thinking about bad things, so I got to focus on the breathing to bring it back into not thinking toxic about it, trying to think about the good things, like what did I do that I felt accomplished with.
Right.
The thing is, you're never really going to clear your mind. The point is the activity of noticing a new thought is coming up, and you realize it, and then you move on to the next one.
Yeah, and that's how I'm starting to like kind of notice it. And I've been doing this for about 5 days now. I feel a little bit better. Like I feel like I'm with just those two things. I feel that I've been kind of like taking things a little bit better. Like criticism, even for that matter. Like I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. I get that. I can figure that out. And that's kind of where I've been sitting on it. And I want to keep updating the podcast on it, and let them know how this has been changing. And like, it helps me look forward on things that I'm excited for. That I don't think I was doing before. It might be that I'm just closer to the vacation coming up because I really feel like I need to just take a break because I haven't really had a break since last year's wedding. Like I've had a couple like extra days here and there, but not a real break since the wedding. I think it's at that point where it's like, okay, I need to take a real break, right?
You just know.
And I think this has been helping me though, like get through the minimal amount that like it's just getting me that extra push that I need. And I think that's it's something beneficial that I think almost anybody could probably like take from it a little bit, even just trying it for like a week is going to make a big difference in somebody's life. And I've been noticing it myself, like just a small little bit. Like I'm not saying go spend $60 on some fucking veggie greens. It doesn't need to be that.
Well, if you're eating eight sources of vegetables a day,
going from one to 8 is pretty big.
Do you guys mind if I take the last little 10 minutes here? To
talk about
Take her, man. Yeah.
Let's we'll end that topic.
Let's just to really just summarize it all up. It's called a balance for a reason, work-life balance. If you find there's struggle in your work, take a reflection on your personal life. If you find there's a problem in your personal life, take a reflection on your work. It's going to be a whole circle. Don't just think if you're having problems at work, it's a work issue. If you're having problems at home, it's a home issue. Make sure you're finding the balance between the two, and you're taking advantage of each day as it comes.
It is so important.
I think that's good advice.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, so what I want to talk about
Here we go.
is this is what I've done those YouTube videos about because I'm super interested in anything technical, anything to do with hacking.
Well, I mean, it never got brought to my attention. Like, I don't have the type of like circuits that you have where you see these things. Like I don't follow his news feeds specifically because I feel that it makes me feel toxic when I do that type of stuff. So I get it through you mostly.
Yeah.
And
most people do.
Well, yeah, which isn't a bad thing. Like you always need that person in your life that like has all this fucking information that just like blah blah blah. Like, because if you don't want to get it from elsewhere, it's better to get it. Like
it's still good to know the info.
Well, yeah, for me, it's more therapeutic getting it through you than getting it through a news station because the news station doesn't do the research. Very rarely do they ever do it well. Yeah. And then with you, I feel that you not only do the research, but you and I can joke about it a little bit afterwards. And I think that's super important to have that, like to not be so serious about it all the time. Like you need to be serious about it, but not to the point that it's going to affect your day-to-day life and stuff. And I think that's something you've been really good at with me, like when we talk about things, because I've sheltered myself off from the news for years. Because
the news can be scary, man.
It's negative all the time, and I hate the negative news. But you make that negative news not seem so.
Well, that's because I can joke about it.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier on that. But yeah, you telling me this was like super interesting. So like I will tell the world.
This is a pretty big thing.
Yeah, this is a huge thing. So we're just getting into the whole topic here. I'm very interested in this. So sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll try and do this as quickly as I can because we don't have a lot of time here. But today is what, Tuesday?
Yeah, it's Tuesday the 16th.
Tuesday the 16th. So I'm not sure when this is going up. Not sure how relevant this information will be. But this is based on the best of my knowledge in the couple days this has happened. On Friday, there was a virus that was noticed. It hadn't infected that many people. They noticed it a couple days before. But by Friday, it had infected about 45 to 80,000 computers. Now, this virus is known as the WannaCry or the WannaCrypt virus. This is a ransomware worm. Now, what that means is ransomware is a type of virus that once it gets into your computer, it'll take all your files, lock them down, and encrypt them using a specific algorithm so you can no longer access them. And then it will ask you to pay a ransom, usually in the form of Bitcoin, to get your files back.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
What happened is what's the interesting, like, why this is so bad.
This is pretty common. Ransomware happens all the time. The FBI came out like 6 months ago, and they're like, your best bet is just pay the people. Yeah, so they really...
That's a good answer. Just give in.
Just pay them.
Yeah, if you want actual advice, back up your shit now before this happens to you. And then you won't have to...
everything and put it back in.
Yeah, as long as you have it offsite somewhere. So now the reason this has become such a big thing is because this virus also includes a worm. Now a worm is a virus that can self-replicate. If you put this virus on a computer that is attached to a network, it will figure out how to propagate the network and spread out to all the other computers on that network. So this is a pretty big thing. Friday is when it started getting big, and they noticed that it had taken over the computers at the NHS, which is the National Health Service in Britain, I believe. And it had taken over a bunch of computers in a hospital and locked down all their files, all their personal information. They lost tons of patient data. And
which is so fucking bad.
Yeah, because this is 100% preventable. And they lost a bunch of data. I believe they had to pay them to get some of the data back. Because once it's encrypted, there's basically nothing you can do unless they have a weak encryption screen.
And we've been through the whole Bitcoin thing, that it's not necessarily... You can see the transaction, but you can't
trace it. It's
hard
hard to trace, yeah. There's people who say they can do it, but there hasn't been a lot of evidence for that. So, this happened on Friday, and as of now, it's at a little bit over 200,000 computers infected. Now, between Friday and now, which is Tuesday, people thought they had stopped it. There was a domain name or a website in the code of the virus that this researcher found. I can't remember his name. I think it's malware analysis, something like that, or malware tech. He found this website that hadn't been registered. So he registered this website, and then from there, all the information that the virus was supposed to send to this website started going to this website that this guy registered, effectively blocking it. So the virus was dead for maximum 12 hours.
Oh, that's not very long.
Yeah, so as soon as the person who created the virus found out that it had been blocked, he just got rid of that part of the code, and now it's back. So this took over the NHS. Like, there are possible deaths behind this, because I read someone who had worked in one of the hospitals who had been affected by the ransomware. They could not do anything. Like, they had no blood data. They had nothing. They can only do life or limb-threatening surgeries. Yeah.
Like a computer virus is literally killing people. That's fucked up.
Yeah. It's affected a lot more than that. It's mostly targeting Europe right now. But the thing is, this is not a targeted attack whatsoever. No one created this with the intent to take down the NHS. This was just, it took over whatever was infected. Whatever it possibly could, whatever was vulnerable.
It was doing what viruses do best.
Yes. And where the original virus came from, the exploit that it is based off of. Remember our first podcast when I talked about the NSA and all these tools they had? They've been collecting 0 days.
Hackers methods to be able to hack themselves, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the NSA created this exploit called Blue something. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. But they created this exploit, and then this group known as Shadow Brokers took over a NSA-controlled computer and released all the tools that the NSA was using. This included that tool. So the code that this virus was created off of was created by the NSA.
So how long from when that release happened to when this virus started? Like, was it a month? Was it like how long?
Several months.
Took several months to basically write it?
It could have been written in a couple days, but yeah. This is mostly affecting computers that
Wait,
are...
you said it stemmed from the NSA?
Yep.
Yeah, the programs or the things that they wrote
Yes.
got leaked out, right?
Yeah.
And then somebody took that and wrote this with it.
Got you.
This was the exploit that made it possible to take over people's computers. So they added their own code onto that to make it, to lock down the computers. So basically the NSA created this exploit, and if they would have informed Microsoft like they're supposed to do and they find an exploit, this never would have happened. So a large portion of the blame can be put on the NSA, but at the same time, most of these computers that were affected were running Windows XP. Not all of them. Some of them were running Windows Server 2012.
Why
which
does
is also
XP
very
always
old.
have more issues than, like...
Because XP, Microsoft ended the service of it like 3 years ago. That means they are no longer releasing.
Outdated.
You'd be surprised how many people use XP though.
I know.
I mean,
No,
Christ,
I know.
we were using XP on our
Until a few months ago, until I started hounding them.
Yeah, basically now we don't have it.
Yeah.
We have learned. Now we don't
Well,
have some worm virus eating all of our shit.
Yeah, it's because they don't put out updates for it anymore. And those Windows updates are very important because they patch certain holes and vulnerabilities. So,
you're telling me when there's an update, you should update?
Yes, yes.
I think so.
Son of a
Always.
bitch. I'm fucked. God damn it. Ever see that South Park episode? Where they
the user agreement one?
The user
agreement.
yeah,
Nobody reads those.
Yeah, no one reads
Just
that.
turns into fucking human centipede.
Yeah.
So funny. God, that
I'm
was
so
good.
skeptical about doing updates and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I understand the whole update. Like I hated doing them too. I'm like, it's just fucking useless.
Some bullshit.
But,
They're
like,
important.
It's super important, and
But
I never really realized it.
the thing is-
That's so funny.
When
Okay.
you're in charge of a server that is super critical, that it has to be up and running at all times, 24 hours, these people do not automatically install the updates like us home users do.
It's HSC, right? That's where the issue is right now. Like where the big one is. Is that the name of the
NHS.
NHS, is that what it is? Okay, so NHS. Why are they still using? That's the question, because it's a government-run fucking. It should just
It
be
takes
like automatic.
a lot of time and a lot of money to switch
XP
over all
was
these servers.
2006.
Yes, I'm aware.
11 years ago.
It takes a lot, and like these people don't
Goddamn
put out
tax dollars
automatic
aren't getting
updates.
There's been 3 Windows since then.
There's been more actually, but yeah.
Well, variations. ME. Oh no, ME was before it wasn't.
ME was super long time ago.
But that's not the point.
That's Millennium Edition.
There's been
That's
a
Windows
fucking
2000.
long time for them to like. There is no excuse at this point, my opinion anyway, that they haven't done some sort of upgrading to their system. Like it's just that either A is lazy or ignorance because they just don't want to learn the next part.
Exactly. When Microsoft announced that they were ending the service for XP is when they should have done it, not 4 years later.
Okay, well, how long ago was that when they ended? That was...
I believe that was 3 or 4 years ago when they announced that they were ending service.
I remember hearing about it. It was around when I believe Windows 7 was coming out, right? They're like
that would have been
Windows 8, maybe.
Yeah, I probably Windows 8, Windows 8.1.
And they're like, we're not doing anything. They're about two operating services behind, usually, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, okay.
Well, there's
no
XP,
more.
Vista, 7, 8, 8.1, then 10, and now there's 10 Creators Edition.
But that's like the crazy part, from what I understand, is that they actually came out with a patch for XP.
Yeah, which is unprecedented. A couple days ago, Microsoft put out a patch for XP, which never happens because they ended the service.
It's done.
Yeah, so they thought it was critical enough that they had to put out a patch. So I don't know if this patch was set to, probably not, to install automatically on all the computers. So basically, this patch would have to be manually installed by whoever was in charge of it.
Like in a video game, I always bring it back to this, but in a video game related thing that happened with there was somebody that had a Virtual Boy from 1996, and he was looking for a piece for it, and he wrote Nintendo being like, hey, I just need to get this piece for the Virtual Boy, and they basically just sent him a letter saying, fuck you nicely.
Yeah.
Like, you're fucking stupid. Go to a goddamn flea market if you want to get this shit. Fucking 96, it's 2000.
It's like, we don't make it anymore.
Microsoft didn't give you the nice fuck you. They actually fucking did something.
For once, they did something good to try and fix it.
Like, because this is a serious problem, and like I bet you, the hospital is a big contributing factor to them trying to fix this.
Actually, where we are,
huge,
like this is mostly affecting Europe, not so much North America.
Yet.
It has, but not nearly as massively. Like, I believe FedEx in America they've been infected. A bunch of universities have. Part of Manitoba Hydro, where we live, that's in charge of our electricity. Some of their computers are infected.
Oh, jeez.
I know this because I know a guy who works at Manitoba Hydro.
Jeez.
I know a lot of our government computers run XP, so they're probably going to be infected.
Like, well, I just don't get why people wouldn't upgrade. Like, I mean, at a certain point, you just do it. Like, I get the mentality of, like, this operating system I'm used to, I don't want to learn the next one. I get that because I did it for a long time, but to learn the next one isn't that much more difficult. It's all the same shit, just in different places.
When you're running a server, it's a little bit different because there are legacy programs that might only work with XP, and you gotta wait for them to make one for, say, Windows 7, and they don't install updates automatically because they can't let their system go down, which it will when they install updates. They have to have a planned downtime maintenance to do that. Now, there's a Twitter account, which this might be one of my favorite parts of this. It's called Actual Ransom, if you want to find it. So there are 3 Bitcoin addresses tied to this worm. And this is basically a Twitter bot that tweets every time someone pays the ransom. So if you look at the 3 Bitcoin addresses...
Happy I paid off.
Yeah.
Just paid off. I get to use my computer again.
If you look at it, there is a total of $70,000 as of earlier today that these people have made from this virus.
That's totally modern day gangsters, hey?
Well, people think
it is, and that's what it's come down to. Like
this is probably some guy in like Lithuania. Like just this is not some massive criminal conspiracy. This is probably a couple hackers.
So how much you can find out how much they've made off of this already, right?
Yep.
What's the amount?
$70,000 US.
It's not that much.
It's
not that
in
much.
4
For the amount of
days.
trouble that they can get into if they get caught, 70,000 is fuck all.
Yeah,
You
but
literally make
depending where they are, these could be people in fucking China. That's a lot of money for them.
Also, on top of this, and it's one thing that people don't really talk about when it comes
Yeah,
to
not
hacking.
worth anything nowadays.
No.
You get caught hacking, there's a chance you might just get a
Life in
job out
jail.
of it.
Well,
There's
just
a
life in
chance.
jail or a
That's
job.
true, too.
It's like it's one of the two. Like you're
Yeah.
either in jail for the rest of your
Or
life,
you're
never allowed
working
to
for
touch
the
your computer,
man now.
or you get a job helping out, not allowing the same thing to happen
Yeah.
again.
Which is what I want to do. I would love to have a job doing that.
Well, you
Finding
need to start
security
hacking
vulnerabilities.
things a little bit more.
Now that the world
I'm working
knows.
on it.
Just leave loopholes so they can find you.
Yeah.
That's all.
No. So the last thing I want to say about this just came out a couple days ago. People are saying that North Korea is behind the attack.
Jesus
Let
Christ.
me shit on that theory. All over it. Okay. Remember when Sony got hacked because of that
Oh, yeah,
movie
yeah,
about
yeah,
North Korea, and
Yeah.
everyone was like, it was North Korea.
It was the interview. It was kind of funny. It was
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
That was pretty good.
North
It wasn't
Korea
terrible, but
has 6,000 IP addresses. There are 6,000 IP addresses within a 25 square radius of
Yeah,
where
that's
we
like
are
nothing,
right now.
they don't have the technology to be able to do. Like I mean,
They have it.
They
It's
could,
just it's
but
not everyone. It's certain people in government who have that. So the reason people think this is North Korea is because they found a snippet of code that is the same as what they found in this virus. So they found a little bit of code in a virus released by this group called Lazarus Group, and then in this virus, the WannaCry virus that we're talking about now, they found the same snippet of code. Meaning, fuck all. Because people use the same code over and
yeah,
over
we
and
just went
over
through
and
this
over.
earlier with what happened. Like this came from the NSA, right? Like originally.
Yeah, but they're saying
So, like,
this piece
but
of
it's still
code.
a piggyback thing to get it. So it
Yes.
probably there's a chance to
This exploit is probably based on 25 other people's codes. Code is stacked on top of each other endlessly to create something. People do, but very rarely are things programmed from the ground up.
For me, like the way I'm looking at this in regards to North Korea is like I'm gonna bring it back to music, but music has flavors of the week all the time where they like that's how one hit wonders happen. It's the same shit with bad things that happen. Like
Yeah,
a few months ago, it was ISIS. That's all people talked about for years. We're starting to see a shift in the flavor of the week. Is now North Korea.
No, now it's Russia versus Russia going to war
Russia
with
and
the US.
America, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's also stemmed between Russia
It's no
and
longer
North Korea
Putin's
because
puppet.
like it's like
Everyone
That's what
it's
you
a
think.
combining thing, right? Like
Yeah.
I think North Korea is associated or
Yeah.
affiliated with.
And also, I've seen no evidence linking this Lazarus group to North Korea at all.
But people want it to be. That's
Exactly.
the thing.
It's
That's
confirmation
The thing. They just
bias.
want it to be. At this point, they want to have an explanation. They want to have a person to
They
blame.
want to get angry at North Korea.
Yeah, and it's true though. That's where it's come to. You know, like he spits out of his mouth so often that people just want to blame him, and regardless if it's his fault or not. I mean, that's been happening throughout history.
Yeah.
We repeat the same mistake constantly.
Yeah.
Like, that happened with the weapons of mass destruction with Saddam Hussein. Not saying that his needed to come down, didn't need to, but people wanted so badly for that to be truth.
Yeah. Well, it was truth because we did sell it to them.
Yeah, well, I
That's
mean,
right.
But we never
That's
found
right.
those.
That's right. Yeah.
but that's what I'm trying to say though. Is like people just want something to blame or
Oh, it
something to
happens
put
all the time.
towards.
Look at all
And
the
it's
people
just
who are like,
literally-
Trump's doing nothing with Russia. Like, there's so many people that are 100% behind Trump. Sorry, I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I was
Just silence,
I just
silence.
went through my fucking head like, oh no,
Wait,
oh no,
should we
fuck,
start
oh
going
no.
or no?
This is gonna be another
like
3
2
hours.
Let's end it there.
All right,
then.
let's
end
do
it
it.
there.
That's enough for
All right,
today.
well, if you didn't know, this is Why the Fuck Not, is where three guys sit around one table, bring topics of discussion so that we can do it for your amusement. If you want, you can find us on Podbean under WTFN, SoundCloud, Why the Fuck Not Podcast, same thing for YouTube. Podcast, some iTunes, you can find us on there, Why the Fuck Not Podcast, and of course, you can always find us on Facebook and our email with whythefucknotpodcast@gmail.com. Please give us some feedback. We love hearing that stuff. Like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever you need to do, whatever freaking media you're listening to us through. Just please, it helps us out a lot, and I think we really appreciate it ourselves too. So either way, this has been Ed.
This is Dwight.
I'm Aaron.
Peace, motherfuckers.
Don't throw spoons at hookers.